Hey,
Okay.
Rebecca, what's going on?
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm feeling the new moon energy today very, very strongly. I'm actually wearing my new moon shirt.
Nice. I love
How
it.
about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Sorry if I sound a little congested. But I'm really looking forward to this chat with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this chat, and I would love to start the conversation with you describing your journey, how you got to where you are. If you could tell us a little bit about what you do right now. I introduced you briefly, but I
Hmm.
would love to hear it in your own words, what it is that you do, and then go into the story of your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Great. So I'm a women's empowerment coach, love and dating, mainly focusing on that. Um, Helping women feel more empowered in their lives, whether they are single or in partnership. So I've been kind of on this track, this journey for a few years. I did work with men a lot as well. I did tantric work for the last 4 years. So I also use a lot of that to help women in feeling more sexually empowered, learning how to channel their sexual energy as well, their eroticism too. Um, so I one of my big things right now is doing the boy break, which I took myself in a 6 month cleanse, a break. Um, I had gone through quite a series of relationships that were not your ideal relationships. I'll explain a little bit more about some of those and how it led me to this place.
Mm.
Um, but essentially, yeah, so I've also been, I have a background in, I have a coaching certification. It's sex, love, relationship coaching certification that I did for a year long. And during that time is kind of when I decided where I wanted to hone my focus. I couldn't decide if I was going to go the tantric route or the women's empowerment route, but I like the women's empowerment because I can tie in a lot of the Tantra stuff into that. And I think that's an area too that really intrigues a lot of people and women, especially of like, how can you channel that energy and how can you feel more empowered within your own sexual energy? So, during the time that I was doing the coaching certification, I was trying to figure out where my niche was, and I was also in a very toxic relationship. And I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to get my business off the ground and try to empower women if I was still holding on to this piece, to this person, to this guy, um, who I had been in and out with for about 2 years.
Mm.
And um, so if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of like dive into that storyline,
Please, please.
the drama
I
of
would
that.
love for you. There's so we had my friend Silver. She says that she's doing the same thing right now. She's taking a boy break, or another term that I've also heard is a masculine cleanse.
Hmm. Yeah,
Taking
there's masculine cleanse, and also, as we kind of mentioned before, there's feminine cleanse too, that when men can take a break from women. And it's not, it's like, when I would mention what a boy break is or a cleanse, like it was kind of intimidating, or especially for men, because they would think it's like me saying like I'm off men, but it's actually like, which is
Do you hate
true.
us? Be honest.
Yeah.
No, you don't hate us, do you? You still love
No,
men,
I
right? You
love
still love men,
men.
and it's not like you're putting down men when you say you're taking a boy break, and
Yeah.
you're gonna get to why you decided to do this, and for people who are watching right now, I know Becca, I've known you for a couple of years now, and you've always treated me with the utmost respect, and I've always felt very safe and comfortable around you. So this doesn't have to do anything with bashing men. So in case anyone who's watching right now thinks, oh, they're just gonna bash men for the next hour, we're not about to do that right now.
No, and it's like even when I was going through all the toxic bullshit that I was in, I still was never really a jaded person when it came to men. Like I didn't look at men and be like, oh, all men are gross. It was
Mm.
just like I realized that I was, and even if like I tried to look at them and be like, it's them, it's because he's like doing this or that or whatever. But when I started to notice that this was a continual thing, I had to take a step back and look at myself and be like, okay, where am I playing into this? How am I creating this as well? What
Yep.
is my role in this? And why am I accepting this type of behavior? It's there. I can't change someone, so you can't change the behavior of another person. You can influence them by talking to them, by expressing, but you can't actually change what they're going to do. So it came down to, why am I allowing this in my life? What is that saying about me? What am I telling myself by continuing to allow these types of relationships in my life? Um,
What
and
did you
I,
discover? What did you realize? What was it that kept you manifesting these type of relationships? And what was it about you? Because I love the fact that you're taking accountability for your life, and that shows your level of awareness. You're at a higher level of consciousness than people who are saying, "Well, they did that to me,"
yeah,
and pointing the finger. Which, I mean, guilty as charged. I've definitely been that person before, to say, "Okay, it's that person's fault." And then when I started to take full accountability for my life and see that, I can't change other people, like you just said, and I shouldn't want to change other people. If I don't like, simply put, if I don't like the output of my life, if I don't like what I'm seeing in my life, instead of trying to change all those things outside of myself, that's really, really freaking hard to do, and
and kind of
quite frankly,
impossible.
impossible.
Yeah.
Why not start changing myself?
Yeah.
So you got to this point where you were doing this coaching certification, and by the way, what is the name of that certification that you took?
It's a program by Layla Martin. She's like really big name in the Tantra world. And not just Tantra world, but and she's been on all kinds of like, Cosmopolitan and stuff. And it's really the only program out there. So it's a sex, love, relationship coaching certification, and it's a year long. It's for all women. It's a women's container, or people that are non-binary. Um, and so it's like being in school, really. And so, the first section of the program, the first quarter, is really about yourself, like doing a lot of the work on yourself. And then after that is about how do you about coaching, and how do you take that into your coaching.
Mm.
um so there were things in my life, like this was always something I knew I wanted to go, a direction I wanted to do was women's empowerment, but I never really felt empowered in myself.
Ooh.
I always felt very small.
Ooh.
I didn't really have very good boundaries, especially with men.
Well, by the way,
uh,
I just want to say, like, you're super good at not showing that, because ever since I met you, I always felt like you're very direct, straightforward. You go for what you want.
no, thank
Um,
you. I
so I
mean,
can
yeah, in
see, I'm
some
saying
areas of
that
my
because
life.
I can see the change.
Yeah, yeah, and I've been, it's been like many years. So I've done work, I've been like doing interpersonal work and work on myself for many years now, 6 or 7 years. And it really wasn't until the boy break that I like shit really changed for me. Because that was like the last little piece that I realized. So during when I was in the coaching certification, and I was in this relationship that basically he had a girlfriend, and I couldn't let go of him for the fucking life of me. Like I couldn't let go of him. And when I met him originally in the start, it was very casual, but it was like it was the first time that I sat down with somebody, and I like when I looked into his eyes, I thought like I want to marry this guy. Like I was
Wow.
like so holy shit. And but I knew, and he had asked me out then, and I turned him down, and because I just like knew like this is bad.
Uh-oh.
And then
The
I
red
didn't.
flags.
Yeah, well, nothing happened yet because I didn't know him. I met him through my work. He was one of my clients actually. And but I just like I knew that it was going to be bad news. So then I didn't see him for a couple months, and then a couple months later, he asked me out again, and I like sat on it for like 4 days, and I was like, oh God, like I want to do it, but I know this is not going to be good.
Mm.
But I was just like so captivated by him. So I said yes, and then that's just kind of when it started. So he was a pilot, so he wasn't living in Miami. He was in and out all the time. And we just had this thing going on for a while, and it was very intense. It was like very passionate. It was very like, sexually charged, and also it was very familiar because there were a lot of things with him that were very like my home, like my dad, um, patterns and the way he
Ooh.
acted and the way he talked. And so it was just kind of like I knew that I was sort of diving back into um, to yeah, like that family pattern that I didn't want to relive, but I couldn't let him go. So um, a couple of months of us doing this, or a few months, it was more than a couple, I started to notice this other woman who was calling him regularly, and she was messaging him on his Instagram. Um, and I finally confronted him about it, and so he confessed that he has another girlfriend.
Ooh.
And I just like so I knew this most of our relationship, but and it was very much an in and out. It was me trying to break away because I didn't want to do that to another person
Mm.
either. It goes against my own values, but I didn't understand why I couldn't live in integrity with myself. Why was I constantly breaking my own value system for this person? So what I've learned too is a lot of the times we do that when I think you're frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm
Okay.
just like
Uh,
I'm just wait. I'm like in anticipation of like what.
how did I get over him? Yeah, so it was 2 years of this in and out, and me just like, this is wrong, this is bad, I need to get out of this. How do I do this? And I did a lot of work on myself during that time. I was like listening to my favorite like human connection, love podcast stuff. I was like doing the work. I was also in my program. So I had a lot of tools and resources. Um, and it was an addiction, and it you realize it's a love addiction, really. And we get stuck onto things, especially when we've experienced trauma. So generally we tend to break some of our value systems and our integrity because we're living from a state of trauma. um, so I tried. I would be like, okay, when we end it this time, I'm not going to do anything I'm going to give myself a month. So I kept extending those periods of time. Like, okay, I did a month last time. This time I could do 2 months, you know? So I was like, because I would fall back in, and usually I would fall back in when I was feeling vulnerable, when I was feeling sick, when I was feeling like when things in your life aren't feeling so good, you tend to um, kind of cave a little bit.
Well,
Um,
I want to know something because you're hitting on something that's very powerful, and you noticed even before all of this stuff came out about him having another girlfriend that he was very familiar to you and he reminded you a lot of your father. And you just said that you break your integrity in relationships and in your life when you come from a place of trauma. And this is healing talks. And so we're here to talk about trauma. We're here, nothing is off the table right now. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about that, because I would love to learn a little bit more. And I'm sure that in your healing process, as you took this boy break, you were able to discover where this trauma came
mhm.
from and what part of your life, because a lot of our trauma stems from the ages of 0 to 7. It comes
Yeah.
from our childhood. When we don't have any of these tools, when there's no yoga, I don't know about you, but my parents never
Oh,
talked to me about mindfulness, meditation. There was no conversation about breath work. And I think even now, this stuff is more common. Like my little brother knows about yoga because of me, but I never had an older sibling that told me about yoga or anyone in my family. So I feel like the kids that are coming up now are going to have even more resources at their disposal. Whereas in our generation and even prior generations to that, I mean, that was not around. So can you tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that or share that with the people watching right now?
Yeah, so, it's like everybody always says they want to live in integrity or they want to date somebody who's in integrity, but
Yeah.
most people are not living in integrity, and it's not necessarily their fault to a degree. It's just that we it's really hard to live in integrity when you haven't worked through your shit because you are like basically trying to live from all of this junk that you have piled up on you and the stuff that you haven't worked through with your parents, with your family, with your ex-boyfriends, with whatever. And so you're still trying to function in life. And so how can you live in integrity when you haven't really cleared out some of that stuff and that gunk that you have inside of you? And so for me, honestly, it's been a journey of getting my life in integrity, getting my relationships in integrity, um, and being okay and being patient and soft with myself the times that I'm not doing that, and understanding the reason why I'm functioning from that space. Why did I do that? It's not because I'm a bad person or I was like trying to purposely hurt somebody. It was because of my own lack of self-worth, my own lack of self-love, my own um, not feeling like I could have more, or just because something was familiar because of the situation I was raised in. And when you can see that and you can understand that, you can have more compassion for people. And so also you can hold a side of compassion for, like I can look at him and say, okay, he's functioning from his place of trauma and
Yeah.
from his insecurities and his bullshit or whatever. So I can hold compassion for him. But that doesn't mean that I need to um, like fall back into that. I can hold that space of compassion. And then I can also hold the other side that this isn't working for me and that's okay. And I need to move on. For me, I need to move on to take care of myself. Like, I know what that situation looks like. I could tell you exactly how we're going to argue. I could tell you exactly how he's going to get triggered. I could tell you exactly how we're going to have sex. Like, everything is very predictable. And we like predictability and we're familiar with it. It's comfortable. And it's easier to do that, to keep falling back into that, than to go and sit in the void of not knowing of what's going to happen and saying, okay, I want to open myself up to new opportunities, new situations, new people. But it's scary because you don't know what that looks like. It's black. It could be a black void. Um, so it's easier when you're starting to feel lonely or sad to kind of fall back into the old patterns, to message, your ex, or to get back involved with that person that is, cheating and you're the other, or whatever the situation is. Um, so I
There's
went,
women right now that are on the healing talk with us, and they're resonating with your story a lot. And my friend Silver asked, "How did you get over him?" And I think what you're gonna speak about is the tools that you learned through this toxic relationship, through this breakup that you went through. But before we get into that, when was the breaking point? Can you tell us when that happened? Do you remember that moment where you were like, I don't know what's gonna happen right now? Because like I love what you said about us wanting to go back to what's familiar. And this is part of human psychology, because even though it might not be working, even though it might be a toxic relationship, it's familiar. Like you said, I know how we're gonna argue, I know how we're gonna have sex. And so even though it's not working for us, even though we know it's not a positive thing, we go back to it anyways.
yeah.
So something really significant had to happen for you to finally say, okay, this is it. I'm done with this guy. Can you take us back to
So
that moment?
yeah, so there's like some other things that happened in between, but basically, um, I met somebody else
Oh,
while he and I were doing the thing, and um, I entered into that. So he and I went 5 months without like anything. Um, and that was the longest I had ever gone. But that relationship that I entered into was also like very off. There were things in it that were not good. Um, and so I ended that, and then I went back to him. I went back to guy number one. Um, and that lasted about a month. And we were like in heaven. Like it felt like heaven. It was kind of like the honeymoon phase. Like we had separated for so long. We got back into it. We were just sort of like, yeah, this is delicious. This is yummy. Um, and I woke up one morning next to him, and I opened my eyes, and my first thought was her, the other woman that he's with. And I
Ooh.
was just like, what the fuck are you doing, Rebecca? Like, you know, why I don't want to wake up next to somebody thinking about somebody else, right? Like,
Mm.
oh, no. Like why am I putting myself back in this situation again where I am the other, where I get the breadcrumbs? I don't want breadcrumbs. I'm not satiated with breadcrumbs. So that was, I like, we had a kind of an amicable ending, sort of, um, where I was just like, look, I can't do this again. Like I really can't do this again. So I left again, and I was heartbroken again. And I met somebody else 5 days later. Like, just like every time it was just kind of like one to the next, one to the next. So I met somebody else. So that kind of masks, the rebound. As someone, do you think a rebound relationship helps? No, I don't. I think, I mean, I don't think it's bad if you can meet somebody that you're very much into, and it's mutual, and you guys can build a strong relationship with, and that person can help you work through your stuff. But if you're just jumping into a rebound relationship to try to avoid what you're feeling, you're just going to carry all the stuff from one person to the next, which is exactly what I did. So I went in, I had a series of three. It was that guy that I did for 2 years, and I met somebody else in that space. And then, I'll tell you that messed up story later. And then I met this last one, and it was, he was a little different. He was a little more conscious, and he actually pointed out to me, like, you've got some shit to work through with this guy.
Let's give that guy a round of applause. Let's clap it up for that guy. So we're gonna have him on Healing Talks next week, and no, that's awesome. That's great because he loved you enough and loved himself enough to tell you straight up, like, "Hey, listen, I love you, and you're beautiful and all, but I still think that you got some shit to work through."
I wish I could say that he loved me. It was a very
Okay.
short.
Well, he loved you enough, not loved you fully, but maybe
Yeah,
enough to like
yeah,
at least be honest with you and tell you, "Hey, look, I think you got some stuff to work through."
yeah. Yeah, he was a psychotherapist, so that was like a different thing.
Uh,
But that only lasted 2 months. So when I was and I knew, like, with him it wasn't gonna end, like it was ending. Like I was just like, we need to end this. This isn't really working out. And I listened to a podcast where I heard this woman talking about a cleanse that she did. And I was like, what? A
My
cleanse?
bad, Rebecca. I gotta know. I gotta know. I gotta know. What was it that you felt off with this last guy, the third guy, the psychotherapist?
Uh,
Too many?
there,
Was he being too honest with you? Was
no,
did he bring that
well,
up that you needed to
he,
work on some stuff?
no, like, there were a lot of things that I really, I valued from that, like that I could go really deep. He and I went really deep into the
Yeah.
shit. And honestly, I think that was part of the problem. We went too deep too quick. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
just like too much. And I was still in a state of like just feeling very unworthy. And he was kind of reflecting that back to me. And he was sort of, there was just like this weird imbalance that was happening with us. And the intensity of his personality didn't really jive with me for very long. And so it just wasn't like fun. Like one of my friends, I remember her on the phone with me. She's like, well, are you happy? And I just thought, no, I'm not. Like with this person, it was very deep, it was very emotional, but I wasn't really happy. So,
But I almost feel like that needed to happen
it did.
so,
It did.
so that you could finally like just say, okay, fuck it, I'm done with this. Like this isn't working out either.
Yeah.
Boom. What happened next? You found this podcast.
Yeah, and so I knew I was like, I'm gonna break up with him like next day. And I was listening to a podcast, and she started talking about how she did this program that she did a cleanse. And I was like, huh. And so she kind of talked about her process through that and why she went through that. And she was a lot of the things that she was talking about was what I was experiencing, like anxious attachment, like toxic cycles of dating, not really um, feeling like taking accountability for what's happening within the relationships, and just very like I was in a state of very low self-worth.
Mm.
So how did I do the class? So basically, I broke up with him, and I was like, I need a fucking coach, like now. And I wanted a masculine coach. I wanted a male coach. I've always worked with women, and I wanted that masculine presence. So I hired a coach, and I told him, hey, I want to do this cleanse. And he was like, great. I've done cleanses. I know what that's like. Actually, he knew the woman that had done the cleanse. So um, I don't think I could have done the cleanse if I didn't have support. It's really, I mean, people can do it on their own. It depends on your personality. But for someone like me, like I need someone, a guide. Like I need someone to encourage me and cheer me on, or someone that's going to hold space when I feel like I fall back a little bit. So I had a coach, and while I was going through this process, like, um, I learned that when you do a break like that, like you need to fill your life up with things that you love, that make you thrive, that make you feel good. So I wanted to like build out my friend network more, spend more time with my friends. I wanted to like really build my morning rituals for myself, my meditation, and like it doesn't have to be so intense. You could choose one thing. It could be journaling, it could be meditating, like things that you start to do for yourself. So I started the break, and it was fucking hard. Like it was hard. The first 3 months were probably the most intense. Um, and I started to realize like what a somatic process this is. Somatic is like when the body stores things, trauma, and so you use the body to kind of work through. Um,
How did you do
so,
that? How did you do
uh,
that?
so, so I've always been into somatic work, and when I do coach, I take people through a somatic process of like, okay, where do you feel it in your body? What is the
Mm.
sensation that you're feeling? So it's all about connecting to the sensation, because we can like talk about it all day, and that doesn't really do it helps, but it doesn't help move the energy out and through. So when you can start to pinpoint like, okay, I feel it in my chest. Okay, oh, this is like this little girl in me, she's like, you know, hiding in a corner or whatever, like you start to understand more of why you're doing the thing that you're doing. Why are you doing this over and over and over again? You have to go deeper. You have to feel it in your body. You have to connect to that. So I during that 3 months, like, you know, the break is no texting exes, no flirting, no sex. It's like cutting everything out of the table. It's a time for you. It's a time to like, okay, what do you really want in life? What's going to make you feel good? What brings you joy? Your
Yes.
friends? Is it the, you know, for me, it's like going to the park, going to do acros, like running around on South Beach. It's like things that make my heart feel full. So you want to fill your life, but you also want to give yourself some space and time. You're not trying to distract yourself from what you're feeling. So it's important to have time to yourself as well. Like, I can remember specifically one night where I wanted to text so badly. I wanted to reach out so badly because that was one of my habits that I would just like, if I didn't hear from them, I would always be the one that was first to text. And I had to sit with that, like, and I could feel it in my body so strongly, like I was bawling hysterically, like my body was so tense because I was resisting this. I was trying to break that habit. I was trying to move forward from that. Um, yeah, and it can be isolating. But that's why you want to try to find people in your network, find things that you enjoy. Like go to a yoga class, go to an acro class, go to, I don't know, those are the things. Like I'm a very physically, if you're, maybe you're a painter, you like to go paint or go, you want to try to find community. You need support. We're humans. We need community. We're not supposed to do everything by ourselves. And so that's been a part of my like process of feeling empowered in myself. Like, yes, I can take care of myself. Yes, I could do these things for myself, but also I can like reach out to somebody. Like, it's okay if I need to reach out to someone. It's okay if I need to reach out to my coach and be like, I'm having a really fucking hard time. I want to text this person right now. Like, holy fucking shit, what do I do? And sometimes he like would put me in my place. And so, it's okay to ask for help. And it's also, it's like a fine balance of doing it by yourself and having your support system, but also allowing yourself to be accountable or making yourself accountable for what you're doing. Um, there was another thing that I wanted to mention in there. Uh, so yeah, it's uh, what I also discovered during that time was I was reparenting myself. So reparenting is like a term that they use in psychology and also in somatic work is like um, I had I had like codependent issues, like attachment style issues. I had stuff, with my dad that I hadn't really fully worked through. And during this time when I could sit on my own, when I was like taking a space, I was not cutting everyone out of my life, but I was cutting out all potential of like finding validation through sex, through men. I had to find it in myself, and I had to really connect to my own source of worthiness, my own um, feeling of power. Like, I don't need to send a sexy selfie or whatever for validation. Like, I don't really need that outside validation. I can start to learn to give that to myself.
I
So
think a lot of the women right here are asking about, because Silver said that she wants to start embracing her sexuality again, but she's afraid of getting hurt. She's afraid of sharing that with someone who doesn't have her best interest in mind. And Gabby just said the same thing, kind of. And I think what you're alluding to right now, Rebecca, is that you don't have to do it with someone else. You can embrace your own sexuality with yourself, which is not what we're taught. And I think a lot of people are clueless because it's not something that's ever told to us. We're usually, well, first of all, we learn it from our parents, right? Growing up, those are our first teachers. Well, mom and dad, they love each other. And that's how two people or a person expresses his or her love, is through another person. But we can feel that love, we can feel that validation with just ourselves. And that's something I want to know about. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
yeah, so that's a really powerful piece, and that's something that I also do in my coaching and in my group program. So I'm in a launch right now. I'm starting my group program Beyond Boy Break March 15th.
Mm.
This will be a 6-month container for women. Um, and in that time, we talk about sex and self-pleasure and feeling that sexual satisfaction and that desire within
Mm.
your own body and understanding that your pleasure is yours. You don't, someone else can give you pleasure, but it's still yours. Like if you are not, if it all depends on where you are in your head. Like somebody can touch you and you're like distracted and you don't really feel anything and you feel disconnected. But if you are present and you are aware of what's happening and someone touches you, it could be a turn on. So it's discovering that your pleasure is your power and that you can manifest that within your own, not even manifest, but you can create that within your own body. And if you want to do it with somebody else, so another thing that I also got from my journey of doing the break was I had always given sex a little too easily to people that didn't really deserve it. I used sex as a tool to keep interest, to pull men in. And so I discovered that I didn't need that when I did the break. I was like, wow, I actually, like, I came to a point now, if I start to date somebody, I'm going to give myself space. Like, I don't, if they really are interested in me, they're going to wait. They don't care. They care about me. So I don't want to use that as a tool to keep someone pulled in. I want to build a connection with somebody. And
Yeah.
that's how I personally feel in general. And so I think it's important, if you want to do it with somebody else, you spend time getting to know the person. Take your time to get to know them. And it depends. Maybe you just want, like, to go have fun and you want a one night stand. Like, I have absolutely no judgment about that. That's like, you know, I've done things like that a lot. But that's not really where I'm at now. And it depends on what you're seeking and what you're wanting. If you want just like a friends with benefits situation, like, there are definitely people you can find that you can connect with in that way. So yes, so there is a thing, because she said, I feel like my celibacy has kind of turned into a sex blockage. There was a moment where I realized that being in that 6 months, I felt comfortable there after a while, like, this is safe here. And it seemed kind of scary to go back out into the world, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I think it's just approaching the dating world a bit differently when you do go back out. Like, getting very, very clear. What do you want? Do you want a relationship? Do you want to just go have sex? And you have to kind of actively go out and meet people. Maybe that's through a dating app or something, or through community, but you can't just sit around and wait and wonder, like, you know, am I going to have sex with somebody, or am I going to, like, be in a relationship with somebody? So now sex is out of your comfort zone, even though I want it. So that would be something that would be the, like, you know, that we would go a little bit deeper into, like, why is it starting to feel like it's out of your comfort zone? Or, like, you know, how long also have you been in celibacy?
There's a lot of, I just want to add, because there's a lot of stuff around giving it up to someone who you feel is not worthy. You don't ever attract what you want, you attract what you are. So you don't feel like you're worthy, you're gonna manifest partners in your life who don't feel like you're worthy, who
And
might,
who also don't feel like they're worthy.
exactly, or who might like the idea of being in love, but not necessarily in love with you.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the giving the space is so important.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, if the person really loves you for who you are and they want to stick around, they're gonna wait. They're not in it for the sex. They're in it to really get to know you.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, you started off to talk about Tantra, being a Tantra practitioner and still using a lot of tantric practices in what you do now with the women's empowerment work that you're doing. And that's what Tantra is all about. It's about, you can have a sexual experience with another person. I have, with just breathing.
Yeah.
Just being aware of your breath and their breath. You can have a very powerful experience with someone. So ladies and gentlemen, don't think that you need to have penetration in order to have a very impactful and enlightening interaction with another human being.
Yeah.
You you don't have to have penetration. And I
Yes.
think a lot of the women that are commenting right now are worried about is like, I don't want to give it up to someone who's not worth my time. Well, first of all, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are or what you are. And if the person really loves you, make them wait and find
Hmm.
out. Test them. You know, you're allowed to test people.
And take time to like get to know someone. Like, are they actually a match for you?
Yeah.
We kind of live off this like idea of fantasy, like, oh, we meet the one, like, with him, like I looked into his eyes, I'm like, I could marry this guy. But that's because he was familiar to me, because he was reflecting back to me my own like stuff with my dad. So I was attracting something that I was already very familiar with. So I think it's important to take your time, get to know people. Um, get to know what somebody's about. There's so many people out there. There's so many people that you're not going to want to date, and that's okay. There's going to be people that you do want to date, and there's probably less of them, and that's good, because you are not available for the whole world. You don't want everybody. Um, and so it's okay to take your time to get to know someone. There's no need to rush. And like he said, like you can have a very deep tantric experience with somebody as well without experiencing penetration. Um,
And last thing, and I know they have some questions here, and I want you to answer it. But last thing is, you know, you mentioned a lot about getting to know the other person. Get to know yourself.
yeah.
You touched upon that, and I want you to go a little deeper into that and how you help women, how you coach women on getting to know themselves better and what they want, so that when they're open to having a relationship again, they're like the ladies that have been commenting, they know exactly what they want from their next relationship. And that's what happened with me when I went celibate back in 2020. I took a whole year off to get very clear and intentional about what I wanted. And I knew I wanted a serious, committed relationship. I know I want to be with someone who eventually wants to get married and have children. So those are things that maybe I don't ask on the first date, but those are things that definitely I will ask eventually. And if the person says, no, that's not something I want, then I already know, okay, well, this is someone that I can get to know as a friend, but not someone that I will want to be with in a romantic sense.
Yeah.
So I
And
would love
yeah,
for you to talk more about that, and then of course answer the questions that are coming in.
I mean, for me, it was like doing the boy break was like me really, really taking that time to myself, like you said, just like really getting clear, and really cultivating my life, like, um, diving more into my work, into my business, into my friend network, like making money, like all the things that I really wanted, that I strived for, that I just kind of kept putting aside because I was in these like weird on and off situations with people. And so taking the boy break for me was, I got to know myself better. Like even now, like, okay, I know I much rather meditate at night than in the morning. I'm not going to force myself to do certain things. Like I've gotten to know my personality more, like making my life work for me and what I like and what I want. Um, what was the other point that you said? How to and yeah, creating rituals for yourself, finding networks, doing the things that you like go do something different, like outside of the box that you don't usually think about doing. um Things are like kind of like loosening up now with COVID life, so there's like more opportunity to go do things, to explore. What is it that you want? What is it that you want that you can create right now in your life? Like, what can you do for yourself? How can you support yourself other than like feeling desperate for a relationship? I mean, of course, like I want a partner, I want that in my life, but I don't feel that desperation that I felt before. And I know now I'm not willing to sacrifice my values or my life or what I want when somebody else walks in the door. I expect whoever walks in the door to match me, to
Mm,
match where I'm at, to say, like,
yeah.
yes, I encourage you to do your stuff. Like, I want you to do your thing. Um, and, um, if you don't want to have sex, great, we're not going to have sex. You know, like that's what I want from a partner. And that's what I expect from a partner. And I'm not going to settle for anything less.
So
And I did experience that. Like I met somebody after my boy break who was like, you know, and it didn't work out for other reasons, but we're still very good friends. And he like was matching my own self-worth. Like I felt worthy, and he was very grounded and stable in himself. And so, and he was very encouraging and supportive in my relationships and in my life and in my business and all of these things. And if I didn't want to have sex, we didn't have to, you know, like there was just like very I was sort of blown away. Like you can even see like in my last post, I put my first date after boy break was to the Maldives because he took me to the Maldives. Like, you know, he treated me like
whoa,
a queen, like a princess.
okay,
Um,
okay. I thought you
and
had picked that one out of pocket, but it seems like you had help. Okay. I was like, Becca, you're really taking this boy break thing to the next level. I gotta have talks.
that
You know, I
was
thought that was
post
a gift that
that
you
was
had
post
to
boy
yourself.
break. Yeah,
Huh?
that was post boy break.
Right.
And
But it
like,
just goes to show the importance of doing this boy break because you got very clear, very intentional about what you wanted, what you didn't want. And so I'm guessing that this is part of what you're going to be teaching women in your course, right?
yeah, yeah. So, to talk a little bit more about that is I'm doing I have a program Beyond Boy Break that starts March 15th, and it's a 6-month container for women, but also just to say like men can also do feminine cleanses. There are many coaches out there, masculine coaches or even female coaches that guide men through processes like that. Um, but I'm currently only focusing on women. So um, I'm doing a 6-month program, and this is for you if you're like, if you're feeling that sort of desperation for someone, or if you're also getting over a or you need to heal or from breakup from a relationship. Um, if you like find that you aren't really good with boundaries and you're people pleasing and kind of catering to the person when they come into your life, like your life becomes their life. So the boy break helps that you create your own sphere, your own bubble that doesn't get popped when somebody walks in the door. And you know, you have the two spheres. When someone else walks in, they have theirs, you have yours, and they're nice and solid and together, and you guys can join together and maintain your spheres as well. Um, and it's like, I want to do it in a group program because I think having that community and having support is a really big piece in that. So for me, like when I did it by myself, I had my coach, but I also made sure to tell the people around me I was doing it, to tell my friends, to tell you know, even like men that would like want to get my number, hang out or whatever, I would tell them like I'm on a break. This is what's up. And then you can also see like who's interested and who's not. And some of them are like, okay, that's kind of like, okay, cool, and walk away. And then others actually were very interested and would say like, oh, I could use something like this myself, but I'm too scared. um, so it's just a very empowering process because you're actually making a commitment to yourself in this way that you're saying, I matter. This is about me and only me. And I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to fulfill my needs and my desires in this time. And nobody can take that away from me. So if you're interested, please feel free to DM me. You can also, there's a link in my bio to read more about the boy break. Um, I'm really excited. I know I'll be doing more of these programs because this is kind of like where I'm very passionate about. Just because I got so much from it and I've done so many other tools, I've worked through so many other things, and it wasn't until that I took this space for myself that I really was like, you know, got that kind of awakening and clarity for myself.
Yeah, and I love the fact that the I love your success story. I love all that you've been through. I loved your journey from this relationship, this toxic relationship that you were in that felt very familiar, reminded you of your father, to where you are now, manifesting a grounded partner who you were with for a couple of months, who even took you out to the Maldives. And I think a lot of the questions were around, well, what do I do? How? Focus on yourself is what
Yeah.
I'm hearing. The main message that you have for everyone watching right now. Focus on yourself, and all that other stuff will take care of itself. Would you agree?
Yes, yes. And like find things that bring you joy. Like even if it's something small, like what in your day can you do for yourself that's going to bring you joy? Maybe it's like a walk to the beach, or it's like just something that sparks you, that makes you feel good, or maybe it's that you need to sit down and focus on something or do some work, like something that you, when you come out of it, you're going to be like, that felt so good. I'm really glad I did that for myself. Um, and giving yourself credit too. I think a lot of it I've learned over the many years is that holding compassion for yourself, holding patience for yourself, being okay if you do fall back into patterns, like we all do. We're human, and it's okay. It's okay, and you can just keep moving forward and keep shifting. But if you fall back, like I feel you, I hear you, I see you. I've done it so many times. I'm sure I'll do it again, you know. So just be gentle with yourself.
That's what I love about your program, and the fact that you're doing it in a group, and you're going to have accountability buddies, and they're also going to have access to you during this 6 month process, so that if they do feel like texting their ex-boyfriend that they know is not good for them, they get desperate or they're confused and they're going through a particularly difficult time, they have the people in the group and they have you as well to reach out to,
Yeah.
which you didn't have, and you had amazing success with your boy break. So I love what you're up to, Rebecca, and it's such an honor to be able to have you on Healing Talks. And we really sparked up a very deep conversation with a couple of the ladies watching here today.
Yeah, I love that.
Soper had a question, and she and I want to take a stab at it, and then I would love for you to
Hmm.
take a
Yeah.
stab at it. What does holding space mean? So for me, when I think of holding space for yourself or for anyone else, just think of a friend who has just gone through. Think of a friend who has gone through a big loss. Let's say someone in your circle of friends has just lost a loved one. How would you react to that if they came to you? You would just console them. You would just be with them. You would probably not try to offer any sort of advice. You would just give them the space to cry, to talk, and just to be. So holding space for yourself and for others is just taking
Hmm.
the space to just be, not to do anything, but just to be there for that person without judgment, without criticism, without advice. Sometimes people
Yeah.
just want to be heard, and I think that could be very healing and very therapeutic. So just hearing yourself without having to change anything, without having to go do something right away, but just sitting in those feelings for a while, I think that to me is a lot of what holding space is. What do you think?
I think that's right on the nose. Yeah. Basically, it's just it's having open ears and compassion, sitting in that compassionately with somebody while they're expressing or going through their stuff without trying to fix. It's not about fixing, it's just about seeing and feeling and connecting to that, and saying I love you, I see you no matter what. Um, yeah.
I think we have one more question. Okay, well, that was already a question that was asked earlier. We have 5 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions? I know some people joined a little bit late, but Rebecca is launching a boy break program. It's going to be a 6 month program where you're going to go deep into your codependency. If you have codependency, you're going to find out why it is that you keep manifesting toxic relationships. And then you're going to have accountability buddies the entire time. You're going to have special access to Rebecca. and all of that she's learned, all the tools that she's learned and cultivated along the way through her own healing journey, through being in many toxic relationships. So I'm so honored that you decided to take charge of your life and to say enough is enough. I love myself too much to keep manifesting these toxic relationships. I want to help heal myself so that in return you can help heal others. And that's exactly what you're doing with this Boy Break program. When does it start?
March 15th. We
And is it
start.
a weekly thing? You guys meet up every week? Do you meet in person? Is it online? How's it going to
It's
work?
online. So yeah, we start March 15th. We'll have bi-weekly calls a month. So we'll have 2 calls a month. And I'll have like assignments and homework, and I'll also do some guided pleasure practices to like explore your own self-pleasure within that as well. We'll have a private Facebook group so everyone can connect on there, share what they're going through, share their wins, share their pain. And then, yes, like you said, like, they'll also have accountability partners to keep them accountable in the process, and access to talk to me if they're going through anything. And yeah, I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I do a program. It's a 10-week program called the Soul Tribe. And what I love about I also have accountability buddies. And what I love about the buddies is you might have already gone through something that the person you get assigned to as a buddy is going through right now, and vice versa. It works both ways. So sometimes people will join the course and they're like, well, I have nothing to offer. Trust me, everyone has something to offer, because what you're
Yeah.
going through now, someone has probably already gone through it. And what you've gone through, someone is probably going through it right now that you can help out. So when we heal ourselves, we don't just heal ourselves, we help heal generations before us and generations after us.
Yeah.
So don't just do it for yourself, people. Do it for everyone else. People kind of feeling. There's a quote by Wayne Dyer, and I always like to shorten it up, and it goes, "World peace can only happen through inner peace."
Mm,
We always talk about world peace. Okay, start with yourself first. Find
yep.
world peace in yourself, and then you can extend that out to the world. It never works the other way around.
No, no, it's not going to. Yeah.
I wish I could give you a hug right now. This
I
is
know.
my favorite healing talks. I would be
That's
talking,
so good.
and I would love to have you back on once your program is done, or maybe like midway through your program,
Yeah, that would be
to,
great.
to talk a little bit about how it's been going for you. And because one thing is setting it up and talking about it, but another thing is actually going through and being in the
The
trenches
process.
with
Yeah.
the program with you. Are there a limited amount of seats available for the program, or is it unlimited amount of people that can join?
Yeah, so 20 right now I'm capping it at 20.
Okay.
Hmm.
So ladies, if you're interested in taking a boy break, you want to learn more about yourself, you want to get clear on your boundaries and what you want for your life, what you want in your relationships, take a boy break with Rebecca. You can reach out to her at Beyond Becca, right? Is it
Hmm.
just
Yep.
Beyond Becca on Instagram?
Yep. That's
Beyond
it.
Becca. The program is called Beyond Boy Break, right?
Yep.
Awesome. So
Because
I'll
it's
be,
more than just a boy break.
yeah. Oh yeah. This, we're just scratching the surface on this healing talk.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, if someone who has been joining us is feeling intrigued, is feeling curious about this, you're on here right now for a reason. There is a little voice in your head, something your higher self told you to click on this Instagram live so you can hear Rebecca's message. So if you're curious about it, don't waste any time. Every moment waited is a moment wasted. Reach out to Rebecca and do this. You're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for others. You're going to help heal many women from this, and maybe even your children. You know, we talked about how all this starts in childhood, because our parents didn't have the resources. Our parents didn't have the tools that we have. If we have the tools, we have the resources. Let's take advantage of them. Let's do it right now. This stuff is priceless. This kind of
Yeah.
self development work is priceless, in my opinion.
Oh
And
yeah.
you're getting money back double.
Hmm.
I don't even know what the program costs, but I don't even care. I mean, like, if I was, I'd sign up for it. Let's go.
Okay,
Awesome.
great. Thank you so much, Luis. It was was such a pleasure talking and sharing, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yes, likewise, and good luck to you and everything that you're up to. And I'll be definitely like telling this to all the women in my life. I'll let them know about your program.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
Take care, everyone. Peace.
Ciao.